Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode in an exclusive four-part interview series showcasing our award winners this year. For today's session, we are honored to have Mr. Jovi Gan, Director at Lymon, who will be interviewing Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, Managing Director at Warburg Pincus, for the ESG Award of Distinction for its investment into Momo. Jovi is an integral part of the management team at Lymon, where he leads all aspects of the service delivery across various product lines for its clientele. He has more than 15 years of experience in the industry across various jurisdictions, including Singapore, New York, and Melbourne. Prior to joining Lymon, Jovi served as an independent professional director for investment funds, and before that, he was the vice president at SVCA Fund Services and an auditor with PwC. His practice includes hedge funds, PE funds, investment holding companies, and related structures with varying investment strategies. He's also a chartered accountant of Australia and New Zealand. We also have with us Saurabh, who joined Warburg Pincus in 2009 and is based in Singapore, where he relocated from New York in 2016 to focus on the firm's investment activities in Asia. Prior to joining Warburg Pincus, he worked at McKinsey & Company in New Jersey and New Delhi and Temasek Holdings in Mumbai. He also sits on the board for Momo. Now, without further ado, I shall leave the floor to Jovi, who will take it away.
Thank you, Sylvia. And Saurabh, congratulations on winning the ESG Award of Distinction. This is truly a remarkable achievement for Warburg Pincus and your team.
Thank you.
Given the challenges faced as a result of, I would say, the transition of economies into a greener one, with an increasing focus on the importance of ESG investing by your various stakeholders. So the particular question that we are focusing today is, of course, Momo, which is an online consumer digital payment platform based in Vietnam. So how did you come across Momo, and can you share with us the journey leading up to the actual investment in them, and how has the journey been thus far?
Thanks, Jovi, and Sylvia, thank you for the introduction. Very pleased to be here, and very excited to get the award, for Momo's efforts on the ESG side. Jovi, to your question, look, I think it's been 3 years since we invested into Momo, and so far the journey has been quite amazing. At the time when we had invested, we were looking for high quality fintech businesses in the region. And our view was Southeast Asia, and in particular Vietnam, were quite well positioned from a standpoint of digital payments and digital financial services. In Vietnam, as you may know, 90% of the transactions at the time were still happening in cash. But that was changing quite quickly. You had these young tech-savvy, population that was, rapidly adopting mobile-based payment solutions and looking for more and more digital solutions to kind of, have their unmet credit needs be sort of met. So we were seeing a very positive dynamic in the country. The other thing that we found quite positive was the regulatory backdrop was quite supportive. Governments in these countries, and again, in particular in Vietnam, is increasingly pushing for a cashless economy as a means for financial inclusion. So when you put the whole picture together, we thought that there is a long runway for digital payments and digital financial services in the country. So, through some of these beliefs, we started actively visiting with companies in Vietnam and the rest of Southeast Asia region. We met with the Momo management team. We were immediately impressed with the team. They had, good grand vision. They had a strong operations mindset, and they'd done some really good job with execution. The business was small; it was almost a tenth of the size of what it was today. But just the sheer vision and the business model they had created was very, very impressive. I also remember at the time, the management team had this. They were seeing this huge, blue ocean market, where, initially you could start the business with payments, but the real opportunity was in the broader financial services space. And that was sort of, something we had seen in other markets. Most others weren't seeing that opportunity, but having made other investments in kind of other parts of the world, we thought, that was kind of the real opportunity that Momo was sort of pursuing, which created sort of good alignment early on and led to an investment and a fruitful relationship with the company. I think to your second part of your question and how the journey has been, again, I think it's been very, very good, very positive. Like I said, the company was 10th of the size, when we invested. So they've grown very, very well. They've grown their user base. They've grown their transaction volume. They've grown their revenue. They have, continued to maintain its lead as the largest payments provider in Vietnam. I'd say importantly, the one thing we feel particularly proud of, the company has moved from being just a payments app to one that has now become a super app. It's an integral part of an average Vietnamese daily life. And they've now launched a host of, digital financial services such as, digital loans, BNPL, investment products, which provide simple and convenient access to the broader sort of Vietnamese market. So, we've been extremely pleased. I think the company has come a long way, and we're quite excited about their future prospects.
Gotcha. Definitely Momo has transformed significantly since your investment into them. And were there any areas of engagement that Warburg Pincus initiated or emphasized post-investment?
Sure. Look, I think in the initial days of our investment, we were quite deeply involved with the business. I would say most of the things outside of core operations, we had some shape or form of involvement in. And core operations is, look, obviously nobody can do it better than the management team. So they are the experts, and we trust them to lead it well. But, in everything else, frankly, we are the largest private equity investors in Vietnam. Before the pandemic, we were in either Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi every week. And we were available to the company in all areas they needed help with, right? So we would bring in our global expertise. We help create their financial services strategy. We would help them from different strategic partnerships from time to time. We help develop their ESG framework. So there's a long list of things that, when you're available to the company as their first call on a day-to-day basis, and you have people on ground and global expertise that allowed us to come in and move the dial for the company in a very meaningful way. I would say at this point, we have now strengthened the C-suite at Momo quite significantly. And, my belief is that it's one of the most capable management teams in the country. So with that, I would say our involvement is a little less day-to-day, but more strategic. We consider ourselves as a thought partner to the management team. And like I said, we are available to them as their first call. Obviously, we interact with them on an ongoing basis, on a periodic basis. But if anything comes up where they need our help, we are always helping, jumping in. I would say mostly around matters pertaining to strategy, organization, capital markets, fundraising, and so on and so forth. So whatever it is, right, we get on the horn, hash things out, and figure it out together, which, I think are kind of the best kind of partnerships.
And how significant were the ESG considerations in the investment into Momo?
They're quite important. And I would say ESG considerations were not just Momo, but in all our investments are quite important. In Momo's case in particular, their focus on financial inclusion really struck a chord with us. As you would know, this is quite relevant in the context of Vietnam, where there is a large portion of the population that's still underbanked and lacks access to formal financial system. Less than 15% of the population has access to formal loans. Less than 5% have credit cards. Very, very low penetration across a suite of financial products. So, in that context, we saw Momo as a key enabler for the Vietnamese digital economy. And to our kind of comfort, the company has played a meaningful role in providing access to consumer credit, improving financial literacy, and in fact, in the process, they've also reduced transaction costs, by eliminating kind of the less reliable cash and intermediaries. So, if you think about some of the numbers, Momo has provided access to about 25 million Vietnamese, to kind of digital payments, and about 50,000 merchants have come into the financial system because of Momos, which otherwise they wouldn't have. So that was kind of, I would say, a very key component of our ESG thesis when we looked at Momo. I would say outside of financial inclusion, we've been impressed with Momo, their focus on ESG and a few other fronts, in particular, diversity and inclusion. It's one of the rare, companies in Southeast Asia where 50% of the workforce are women. They're also, intently focused on decarbonization, where, they have powered this donation platform, which has enabled plantation of thousands of trees, and created several renewable projects across the country. So yeah, it was an important consideration. It's something that we focused on even during the course of our investment, still continue to remain quite actively focused on, and I would say very pleased with the results the company has achieved.
Perfect, that's great. And with an increasing focus, right, really on the importance of ESG investing by the various stakeholders, including investors, and in some part, the regulators, do you expect ESG criteria to become increasingly important in portfolio construction going forward from here?
I absolutely, yes. I think it's quite an important, criteria, and if anything, we are seeing the trend to become bigger over time, and all for good reason, right? I mean, at Warburg, we've been focused on responsible investing for quite a long time. We've invested about $10 billion across key ESG themes, themes such as, financial inclusion that we talked about, decarbonization, digital, access, raising the healthcare standards, food safety. So quite a significant amount of investment in our portfolio has gone towards companies that are pursuing these kind of themes. We've also built a dedicated ESG program at this point. We have about 20 professionals globally that track and monitor our ESG investments, or our investments and their ESG impact, across the portfolio. And with many of these, team members, we are now engaging more deeply with our portfolio companies on topics related to ESG and educating them on the impact they can drive through ESG. So it is definitely becoming quite important. I would say, even if you keep aside the, kind of the sustainable and responsible investing aspect of ESG and just take a pure economic lens, our experience is that companies that have robust ESG focus, they do get more valued in the public markets relative to others who don't, right? So, and we've seen it kind of reflect in a way where either you get almost at the time of IPO, get like, a higher premium, for the company, or you get higher quality investors that ultimately allow you for better liquidity and better sort of price appreciation on the stock over time. So I would say, yeah, even if you keep everything aside and take an economic lens, there is potential for greater value creation through ESG, which has been our experience, and hence the focus continues to be even stronger.
Gotcha. And it's really interesting you mentioned about value creation, right, for investors. And I mean, there's been a constant perception or myth, depending on which side of the camp you're on, that ESG investing may negatively affect investment returns. What is your take on this?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And look, I think the perception of negative returns, in my view, comes from people who are either force-fitting ESG into their companies, or they're investing in companies purely because of ESG without it being a fundamentally good business. In our view, I think it's very, very important that you don't force-fit, ESG criteria or your own ESG criteria in your company. And it's important to really find those unique and relevant ESG angle that's consistent with the core operations of the company, right? And if you've sort of figured that out, then ESG becomes a natural, sustainable thing for the companies to achieve or to pursue. So what we have done is we take an expansive view of each investment. We'd look at what the business does, how it operates. Is it servicing its customer with high quality standards? Is it respecting the workers and the environment? Is it practicing strong corporate governance, right? And each business will have its own sort of unique kind of ESG angle, for instance, financial inclusion in the case of Momo. And if you understand that and build upon that, our experience is that there is, greater potential for impact and greater potential for returns, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all type approach, which sometimes become more dilutive to returns. So look, if done right, it's almost always accretive to returns than dilutive, as against popular perception.
Gotcha. I mean, with this, thank you very much for your insights today, Saurabh. And I shall conclude the interview. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Congratulations once again. And of course, a special thanks to SVCA for organizing this. And I look forward to our next conversation in the future.
Thank you, Jovi. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, SVCA. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've enjoyed this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jovi and Saurabh, for your time and valuable insights shared. For our viewers out there, we hope you found the session beneficial and stay tuned for our second episode coming very soon in this 4-part series. In the meantime, take care and stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.